The purpose of this video is to give you some overview of the ADAC main screen. How do I understand what I'm looking at? How do I need to know what to look for? How can I find what I'm looking for? The first item I'm going to address is the main icon menu. In the main icon menu, there are two main categories of menus. We have process menus, and if you click on the review, we have review menus. You notice that I can click on process, it will toggle back to the process menu, click on review, toggle back to the review menu, and so forth. The purpose of the process menu is to do what you understand the word process to be, to process studies, to take raw data, to process it into some format that then we can use to analyze the images or analyze what's going on in the patient. The purpose of the review menu is to review or look at data that has been processed or to look at raw data. As field service engineers, we essentially deal with one icon on both of these pages. In the review menu, we will deal with usually image display. There are a lot of other icons. There's icons to display bones, there's icons to display spec studies, all kinds of things. We normally just use image display. In image display, we get a choice of how we want to display the images. Do I want one picture on the screen, 2 pictures on the screen, 4 pictures on the screen? In one zone, I will just have 1 picture. 2 zone, 2 pictures on the screen. 4 zone, 4 pictures on the screen in separate quadrants. If I go back to review menu and then back to process menu, we will see quality of assurance. In the process menu, we deal with quality assurance. In the review menu, we deal with image display. Again, I'm generally not wanting to reconstruct a heart. I'm generally not wanting to reconstruct a brain. I'm generally wanting to look at image quality. So we will use the image quality or quality assurance icon. In that icon, we have 3 main items that you're going to deal with. The most prevalent thing that you and the end user are going to be using in this menu is uniformity analysis. Uniformity analysis is where we determine or we analyze the image and we look for image quality. This is where you get your uniformity numbers, your differentials and your integrals numbers. The other thing that is sometimes done on this system, and it depends on what camera we have attached to it, we might be doing axis of rotation analysis here. And also on some systems, we might be doing what's called pixel calibration. Pixel calibration is where we identify or define how big a pixel is. But that is more rare. Most common thing, uniformity analysis. Second most common thing, axis of rotation. This is done on a very, very infrequent basis. Personally, I've never done fan beam axis of rotation. Back to our menus. One thing you will notice, whether I'm in the process menu or in the review menu, you will notice that I have these same 4 icons in the top left corner. They're always the same. If I go to image display in my review menu, again, image display is always in review. So if I go to my image display and I was to pick one zone, I will get a patient list. And I'm going to pick HEHR as a patient. I'm going to say proceed. I'm going to pick one of the pictures. I'm going to say proceed, and it's going to pick or bring up an image of that picture. Now this turns out this is a bullseye of a high energy collimator. I won't go into analyzing it or determining if it's good or bad, but this is just the picture. One of the things you will notice that my image comes up in what's called thermal. If you look down at the bottom bar here, you're going to see a grayscale of white to red, essentially. It's your thermal color. If I click my middle mouse button on one of these little triangles, essentially this triangle, I can slide it up and I can slide it down, and that will affect the brightness, how bright the image is. If I grab the other end, this is your background. I'm doing background subtraction now. Normally, you usually leave your background subtraction at 0. You normally adjust your brightness so that the brightest spot is max white. I generally wouldn't have it down here. I would generally bring it up till I get a white spot or a fairly bright spot. You can also use your left mouse button and click on brighter and dimmer to make the image brighter and dimmer. One other thing you can do is zoom. Right now I'm at a zoom factor of 2. I click on it, I can go to zoom factor of 4. Click on it again, it's going to go to zoom 8. If I click on it one more time, it rolls around and it goes to a zoom factor of 1/2. So I can just keep clicking, get it to whatever I want to. Another choice that is used sometimes down in here is the color. Let's say I don't want to see this in thermal, I want to see it in grayscale. If I right click on that triangle, I can go to gray, which is grayscale. I could go to bullseye. I could go to 8 color, whatever I want. Again, your color bar, middle mouse button, grabbing that triangle, I can affect image change. Now you notice my image right now is in this 8 color. If I was to leave this study and say, I wanted to look at this again, I could go back in. Things that you're going to notice when I pick this, I didn't have to pick HEHR, it remembered. That's something to notice. I picked this picture, same exact study. I say proceed. It does not remember my color. It does remember my patient, but it does not remember my color. It also does not remember how I had these settings. Okay, so let's say that we do want the system to remember a color, not for a particular study, but for all studies. Let's say that I am really a fan of grayscale. I live and die with grayscale. What I can do is I can click on this icon right here, the C, and it gives me colors. These are the default colors for all displays. So if I click gray, from now on, when I pick an image, it will be in grayscale. Let's go back to my image I was looking at, one zone, pick my picture, click proceed. It is now grayscale. You notice down here it's gray also. I can also put it back to my thermal if I wanted to. But every time I pick it, it's grayscale. Now again, not just that picture. I picked a different picture. Pick a different picture yet. Always, it will always be grayscale because I said default color for all images is grayscale right here. Click on it, I'm going to go back to my thermal. That is ADAC's standard preferred thing. One thing you notice is that when I was picking images, it was always remembering the same patient. Let's say I don't want to remember that patient anymore. I want my entire list. Well, I could pick up my patient and I could say reselect patients in the top right, and it will give me my entire list again. I could say pick my patient, pick my study, proceed. I got my image, I quit. Again, if I go in here, it remembers. Well, if I don't want it to remember the next time I pull up a picture, because let's say that right now I want to pull up a spec study. I want to do a 3-dimensional reconstruction. I don't want it defaulting to a bunch of statics. I want to be able to pick my patient. So I can click on the P up in the top left. What that does is, you notice the line through it, deselect patient is what it is. Now when I pick my patient, or pick my display, you notice I get my entire list. When I pick a patient, he will be the next patient remembered. I didn't pick any patients, so I get the entire list again every time. So these are two fairly handy things. This icon is telling me about my hard drive utilization as far as patient space goes. It does not tell me how some of the other partitions are operating, just mainly my patient space. Not really all that helpful in all honesty. a lot better ways of looking at this, but it is up there. The other thing is information about the Pegasys system itself. You notice we have the Pegasys horse and the X. So this is a Pegasys X system. Click on it. You notice it has information about the Pegasys. Again, not really helpful. There's actually a lot of misleading information here. Notice my IP address. That's not my IP address. So I don't personally ever use these two. They don't help me at all. One other thing that we haven't covered any of the icons on the right. Icons on the right. The top one is actually the patient selector. If I was to pick single zone, what you're going to notice is a streak or a line running down from the patient selector, and it creates this window. And then when I close the window, the streak goes back up. If I was to just literally click on this, it will bring that same thing up, and I can say quit, and it goes back. Another icon you're going to have is email. Now, this is not your email to your account. This is internal email on the system. Most of the time, they're just junk messages. You don't want to let this get full. You don't want to let this get very populated. The best way to deal with it is when there's items in here, just click on delete and delete them. Once you've deleted them all, right-click on File, Save Changes. Then you can quit this window or close this window. I'm going to close it. Closing, by the way, shrinks a window. So if I close this window, it shrinks it. Double-click it, it opens it back up. If I was to say quit the window goes away. So let's open up a window. I can show you an example. I'm going to right-click in the background, go to System Maintenance, System Utilities. I'm going to open a Unix window. Now I have a command line window that I can work with. If I was to close it, you notice it goes to an icon. Double-click it, I can open it back up. If I quit it, it disappears. It is gone. Okay, so that's the difference between close and quit. Another icon you see here is this exclamation point. Now, sometimes it's an exclamation point, sometimes it's not. People look at that and they go, oh my gosh, that means something really bad has happened. So I better open that up and see what it is. So I open it up and it is a log. And you're going to see no display pipeline is running, aborting, bad file number. That sounds really, really bad. It sounds onerous. It sounds like something is wrong on this system. Actually, there's nothing wrong on this system. This message is actually a holdover from the older systems, the Pegasys 3.4 systems, where they had a board in the system called a display pipeline. The Pegasys 4 systems and the Pegasys 5 systems do not have a display pipeline. Therefore, guess what? The display pipeline is not running. So it's an innocuous error, doesn't mean anything. You notice now that I've looked at the error, it goes back to an ADAC icon. Here we have our clock. It can be represented in analog time or in digital time. If you open it, depending on how you open it, it can show you. Let's go to properties. I'm going to say analog. Well, actually, I'm going to say digital. Let's grab this. Oh, how come I'm not seeing anything? Close. Anyway, regardless, I'd always leave it as analog. There is a way to switch it to digital. I just am not thinking right now very clearly. The next icon down, little stoplight. What that is our swap space. Swap space is hard drive space being used as memory space. If I open lots of icons, have lots of processes running and open as icons, namely if I'm running AutoQuant or AutoSpec Plus, they take up space, memory. So each instance of a AutoQuant display that I have up on my screen is chewing up memory space. Eventually I will use up all of the RAM in the system and I will start using the hard drive space as RAM. That actually will slow the system down significantly. So basically you want this number to be low. But this is just telling us, hey, you're utilizing your system really, really heavy. If this turns yellow or red, It's telling us we're really using the system heavily as far as using system resources. The next icon down is our disk SPY guy. It is telling us how much drive utilization there is for patient space. You notice we got 3%, we have approximately 4.5 gig of space available. Up here, we also seen we had about 4.5 gig available. We have a capacity of 3%. So again, didn't want to do that. We want to quit that. Or we close it with hitting return. This and this are telling me the exact same thing. This is telling me graphically, when you start getting up into the higher percentages, he will turn yellow. Eventually he will turn red. When he turns red, you're not going to want to be acquiring anymore. The system will become unstable and you can lose patience. So don't do that. You don't want to even get this into the yellow. The system's going to run a lot slower and just be finicky for you. So archive your patients off, get rid of them, keep track of them, whatnot. So we've pretty much covered our main icons on the screen. The last thing I want to talk about is there's a whole subset of menus that we can deal with. The way to get to it is you right click in the background. When you right click in the background, you're going to get a menu. Now, you just want to tap your right mouse button. Just a momentary tap. If your mouse is acting finicky, bouncing, the switch is debouncing, you're going to, it can like, the menu can show up and then disappear. But for the most part, you just want to right click quickly. In here, you have a series of menus. Most of the time, you're going to be using your patient utilities, or we're going to be using system maintenance. Patient utilities, the reason it's important is that is where you can delete patient data or delete patient objects. The other thing you can do is this system is configured with DICOM. That is one of the software packages that has been loaded, and so this is where you would access your DICOM. So I would go to patient utilities, system maintenance. Under system maintenance, there are a few useful tools. One of them is Pegasys status. If I right click on Pegasys status, it's going to bring me up a status page. In here, really the only thing you're interested in is this full status of your space. So you'd say full status. It goes through, it starts doing its check, and it'll say, hey, it's all okay, proceed without action. Even if it says proceed without action, I can always select these and say do it, okay? Or I could say proceed without any action. If I go through, once I proceeded without action, I get my previous screen, which is telling me what was happening. And what I see is that there were 124 files on the hard drive, and there are 124 files in the database. So the database is agreeing with the hard drive. There's nothing on the hard drive that isn't in the database. There's nothing in the database that is not on the hard drive. And it goes through and it looks for things that could be having a problem. At the end of this, I can just hit a return. I'm done. I can hit exit. If I was to do a full status, and let's say that it said you should restart your database or rebuild the database, it doesn't hurt to just kick them all and say execute the above. This process will take varying lengths of time. The more patience you have, rebuilding the database will take longer because it has to go out and individually look at every file and reconstruct the database from the files. Now, I only had 124 patients or 124 studies, not patients, 124 studies. And so it was fairly quick. And you can see it succeeded, tells me that everything's good, I can quit. There is a way to check this manually also. So that's Pegasys status. Let's say that I did something and, oh my goodness, look at that. I'm missing an icon up here. Why did that icon go away? What icon was it? That was the patient selector icon. Well, what I can do is anytime, well, let's kill all of them. Let's quit that one. Let's quit the clock. Quit him. We'll quit him. Now let's see here. So we're going to go to system maintenance. I can say restart functions, and I can say restart. What do I want to restart? Disk spy guy. Okay, he's back. System maintenance, restart functions. I want to restart my clock. System maintenance. Where are we at? Restart functions. And so I can restart whatever I want. And I'm just going to restart my patient selector. I don't care about the rest. So I can restart those processes anytime I want. Under system maintenance, we have restart functions. Set default devices, generally you're not going to mess with that. Under system maintenance, we have system utilities, and we also have exits. Exits where you can log out. That will take you to a login prompt or shut down. The shutdown process or the shutdown function takes us down to a prompt that says OK. Once you have the OK prompt, it is safe to turn off. Log out simply logs you out to the login screen. The system is still fully functional. I can still acquire to it. It's just that I don't have this screen up on my screen. We're going to go to system utilities. In system utilities, number of things in here. For the most part, most of these I don't mess with. You know, I can deselect patient. That's much like hitting this P up here. There are text editors, which I don't want to use because it puts me into weird states. The icon or the choice I always used in this menu is Unix window.
The support staff at Universal Medical are here to assist you with all of your nuclear medicine technical and parts-related questions. Please call us at 888-239-3510.